In my active addiction, I did wake up in unsavory places, crack houses, unable to get off the mattress that was on the floor without having my next fix.
My hands would shake feverishly. I couldn't carry a glass to my lips without two hands.
Things went from bad to worse. It was like living on a roller coaster of chaos. The police were constantly at the house telling us that he'd been arrested.
I got a call early in the morning from my son, 2 o'clock in the morning, to tell me my daughter was killed.
The loss of 2 children basically changed my life and our lives as a family.
My father had been, due to alcoholism, had been involved in a fire and was rescued from a building.
One of the first things I think about is the plague that we have across this country with pain, medication, addiction issues, and it's mirrored in the first responder and combat vet community. A lot of police officers are going to doctors for legitimate on-the-job injuries, and they're handed prescriptions, and they have no idea what they're getting themselves into. They assume that because it's from a doctor, it's okay.
It's about what the drug is doing to our children, to our first responders, to our veterans, to our society.
At around the age of 12, I took my first drink. It was to commune with friends, to experience something different, and the effect thereafter was not something that was profound. I didn't realize immediately the impact it would have on my life.
I grew up in a healthy, functioning family. My parents were loving, nurturing parents. I never wanted for anything. I attended very good schools. I was an athlete. I got good grades. No traumatic, life-threatening experience fell upon me to trigger this disease. It was just something that happened.
We had 3 sons, and Alex was the youngest of our 3 sons. He was our risk taker. He loved having a good time. He was always the life of the party, and he was a good-looking kid.
As a parent, children go out to party, but you never imagine that night being the end of their life.
I was full-blown in my addiction and completely committed to doing whatever it took to get the heroin I needed to continue to function in society. I was not able to work, to attend school, to go to family functions, to experience life, to have intimate personal relationships.
I would have began my day with a hangover at about 5 a.m. because I couldn't sleep past then. So because I didn't have class till 9 o'clock, I would wake up and drink myself back to sleep for a couple of hours, which usually left me with 2 hours of drinking and 1 hour of sleep. And then off to class I went, ultimately still intoxicated.
He was partying too hard with his friends that we didn't like very much. We noticed that things seemed to be going downhill, and then in September of 2008, he had a DUI.
And we lived in a dark area, and there were no lights on the road. It was a highway, and she got hit by, actually she got hit by 2 cars. One car threw her into the middle of the highway, and then another driver hit her. And the other guy was drunk too, so.
I had gone to his apartment because we were going to find a place for him to go to detox.
Just minutes before, he and I talked on the cell phone, and again, he said to me, "I'm sorry, Dad."
And I was sitting outside of his apartment, and he overdosed. And before I could get in, that was the end. His girlfriend and I finally got into the apartment and found him, and it was too late.
In the next few years were a blur of trips to jail cells, to detoxes, to treatment centers in the back of a police car, and experiencing hopelessness.
I didn't respect myself enough under the influence to have others respect me. I saw myself compromising all of my goals for alcohol instead of compromising alcohol for my goals. As a result, I was desperate and at rock bottom.
The addiction challenge that we have now, or problem that we have now, has no bounds. It cuts across race, it cuts across economic level, it cuts across socioeconomic trends, it cuts across gender. And so what we need to do is look at it for what it really is. It's an illness.
And if you look at heart disease, coronary disease, or diabetes in a sense, I mean, people know that they are physically sick because of this disease, and still they choose not to eat healthy, not to exercise, not to take their medication, and the end result is it's inevitable that they're just going to fail. Same way with the disease of addiction. If it's left untreated, the ends are always the same.
And I finally came to terms with the fact that I couldn't do this alone. And I finally reached out for help, and that's when my journey began.
At one point in my life, I was that person that thought that addiction was a choice. I didn't support addicts. I didn't support recovery. I thought it was an absolute choice.
I just say the same thing all the time. I say, tell me that people are making a choice to destroy their lives. It's not a sane, let's say, if anything, it's not a sane choice, right? Something is wrong.
I think as the public hopefully is becoming more aware that we're talking about chronic medical illnesses, that stigma will be reduced to some degree. I mean, to help deal with that effectively is to show people that individuals that in recovery can recover and can return back to very productive members of society.
The stigma for a law enforcement officer reaching out for help has always been a problem. It's always been an impediment. And they're afraid to talk about their incidents. But when they're in a situation with a counselor who's experienced some of the same traumas and who gets them, they really open up.
To be able to see firsthand and witness the transformation that our patients go through, coming here hopeless, oftentimes homeless, and without connections to family members for sometimes years, and to be able to begin the repair process while here in treatment, and to ultimately move on to the next phase of their recovery experience, and begin to put those pieces back and watch the joy that they have, and to see the families interacting with them, sometimes for the first time in years. It's almost an everyday experience here for the staff. It's something that all of us are eternally grateful for.
Just seeing someone, the way that they present when they first come into treatment, their brains are really contaminated until there's some time where they can get free from the acute effects of these chemicals. And seeing that person 21, 28 days later, it's almost unbelievable change that you can see in just that relatively short amount of time. Their brains begin to clear up a little bit, their thinking clears up, and usually when a person's feeling physically and mentally better, they have a different outlook on life.
The recovery process has afforded me a life beyond my wildest dreams. I wake up today glad I woke up, not dreading the day ahead, not planning, robbing, stealing, cheating, doing whatever I needed to do to get the drug or the drink. I wake up today compelled to give back and to be a member of society, a member of my family, a good employee, a brother, a son, those things which I was incapable of being in active addiction.
I have gained so much in my recovery. I wake up in the morning and I look at myself in the mirror and I'm happy. I go to sleep at night with a clear conscience. I don't wake up with the obsession to drink or do drugs or anything of that nature anymore. I wake up worrying about how I'm going to treat other people. And I don't know if I would still be sober if it wasn't for this foundation.
The key is the people, the employees. Employees make any organization, and they're loving, they're caring, they're giving.
Just had a experience yesterday where a person who had gone through addiction, I asked them a question: what made the difference for you with your alcohol and substance abuse? And they said there was one person who did not give up. And he said to him, as long as I'm alive, I will not give up on you.
When I was inpatient here, I didn't realize that this was a job to those people because it seemed like it was their life. They dedicated every breathing moment to you. They made you feel like you were their own, like your sobriety was riding on their life. Like it just was so important to them to see all of us get better. And that kind of environment made an amazing foundation for my sobriety.
We've met a lot of people in amazing recovery, and we know the recovery is possible. It breaks our hearts when we think about that recovery not being something that Alex was able to get a hold of and live a good life.
His life was precious, and I would have traded places with him at any time, but I don't want it to be a waste. I want to do something. I want to make a difference somehow, in some way, even if it's little. Hopefully saving lives. Hopefully it's not going to be too late for a lot of people.
So many times people want to give up, whether it's a parent or a sibling, they want to give up on the person with the addiction. And the sad thing is you can never give up, because if you do give up, you do lose their life. And if they don't lose their life, you lose them in your life.
People sometimes ask, why should I support Livengrin's programs and services? First and foremost, you're helping an individual, man or woman or young adult, begin a life of recovery.
The men and women that work in fire departments and police departments and in the military instinctively run towards danger. We see it every day on the news. Buildings are burning, firefighters are running inside. Police officers are instinctively running towards the sound of gunfire when most people are walking away. We owe them the best treatment that we can provide.
The cost of not supporting addiction treatment is also devastating. The cost to society through the criminal justice system, the healthcare and medical system, the social services systems is staggering for everyone.
And all the programs that are provided by Livengrin are geared towards that, to have an addict or alcoholic re-enter the community. They have programs here to help the families of the addicts and alcoholics.
Police, firemen, nurses.
A continuation of Livengrin is important for me because it saved my father and saved our family.
One of the hardest things I've had to do since becoming the frat program director is to turn some of these men and women away because they don't have the funding. We should never, ever have to do that. We need help. We need contributions.
We want to empower the individual to embrace recovery and break that cycle of addiction. And we do so by providing comprehensive, integrated, and holistic treatment services.